Hi, so I've just come back from an amazing ride on the BMW R100CS. I actually took it out to Essex. I went out to see these old sail lofts that are out in a place called Tollsbury. I think they were put up by the Georgians or Edwardians, can't remember. But it's a place where they used to go stash their boats during the winter. Just an interesting set of buildings really, and a good place to get a good coffee and a ham, egg and chips. So yeah, I'm feeling well happy. Anyway, back in the garage after that ride, and I thought I'd give you a quick tour around the bike just to show you what I've noticed in the last couple of rides being out and about on it, and to kind of take you through the list of priorities in terms of things that I need to get sorted out on this bike before we do some proper touring early next year. So let's jump in, and excuse the state of the garage. It's a bit of a mess, but you know, you'll get the idea. Okay, so she's a big bike crammed into a pretty small garage along with a lot of other stuff, so excuse the mess. Okay, let's start off down here at the front of the bike. Now, one of the things I've noticed over the last couple of rides is that the brakes are not particularly great, and I've noticed a little bit of pulsing in the lever, especially at low speeds. Just when you're in the city, you know, riding, you know, kind of 10, 15 miles an hour, coming into a very slow stop, you get this little bit of pulsing just like that on the lever. Now, there may be experts watching this who can advise me otherwise, but I think, looking at these brake discs, they are coming towards the end of service. Look at the way the light is catching those grooves. Yeah, you know, that's not ideal. That's not ideal. I know you can get away with a bit of light grooving, but these seem to be pretty heavily worn. So I'm probably going to have to change the discs on both sides. I'll probably go with the EBC, I think they're called ProLite discs. They're about £170 per side, and they have pads that are designed for them that again cost about 20 quid per side as well. So pretty expensive job. It could be also that we've got a little bit of warping going on as well. So, you know, that is often symptomatic of a pulsing lever. Hard to know here. I can't really show you, but the wheel seems to spin relatively freely without binding up too much, just turning it by hand. Impossible to tell by doing that, but it could be that there's an ever so slightly warped disc on either side that could be causing that issue. So anyway, looking at those, I reckon it's time to change them. So that's going to be expensive. Elsewhere, next priority is under the bike. Oh dear, she's having a little cry. So this little bit of cardboard I've stuck down after the last couple of rides. So this isn't just after this ride, but it does have a very slow drip that is coming. Now originally I thought it was coming from, you can see it's very dark under here. I originally thought it was coming from the sump here because all this was wet. I'm giving it a quick wipe down. All that was wet, and it seemed to be coming straight down from there. However, I think the problem, and I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this, is a little higher up. That is the underside of the gearbox, and in there, the little shiny washer you can see is maybe the neutral switch. So it might be coming from there. I think it's coming from there because it seemed to be a little bit wet as well. So I reckon it's coming from there, down, hitting the sump and making it seem like it's the sump, but it probably isn't. So yeah, that's going to be a fun one to troubleshoot. So next on the list of things to figure out is why are we getting that little bit of head shake at around 40 miles an hour? Now, a couple of things we can check. One might be having a play around with this little preload nut in here to tighten up the pressure on the bearings. So there's no obvious notchiness, little squeak, I'm not sure what that is, but and the bars tend to kind of just fall under their own weight. They do speed up, so that might indicate some looseness, but there's no notchiness and they certainly don't feel too tight. But if you can see how I'm doing that, just touching it there, So yeah, I don't know, maybe it could be a teeny tiny bit tighter. A lot of people have said, have a look at your rear wheel. This looks all right to me. I think if it was squared off, that could be part of the reason for it. These are Michelin Pilot Active tyres. I run these at around 38 PSI and around 36 on the front. So I don't think it's a tyre pressure thing. I don't think it's a wear thing, looking at these. So next thing to just check out is whether we need to tighten up the bearings a little bit. So other thing to do on this bike is the paintwork. Now, considering the age of the bike, the paint's okay. But what I've realized is that whoever had this bike before me was obviously a fan of the R100CS, because this is done in a kind of homage. This is very much aftermarket paint, by the way. I do not think this is original BMW paint, but the whole bike was a homage to the R100CS. It had 900cc stickers here. It said R100CS on the back. I changed those two things immediately because I thought it was a little bit embarrassing. But I've come to realize that also this paint is not correct for the R100CS, which is what this bike is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the whole thing repainted. Everything's going to get sent off. It's going to get painted back in its original factory R100CS scheme. I've got a picture here I'll put up. Beautiful, deep gloss black with a properly painted double gold pinstripe around everything. That includes the front cowl, all black. As you can see at the moment, it's just a bit of a tape job. That's just stuck on tape that's been lacquered over, so that's, you know, not really what we want. Same here as well. That's actually plastic, so that will get, you know, stripped back and painted all black with a gold pinstripe. And also the rear cowl as well will get done too. All black, gold pinstripe. So it's going to look proper in terms of how BMW intended it to look. And as you can see, the paint condition is okay, but under these really bright LED lights, you can see that it's, you know, it's been a little bit used and abused over the years. Other thing that I've had to sort out on this bike and need to do properly is this seat pan has been a right pain in that it kept coming off its hinges. So the way this seat works is it kind of rotates up like that, and there's a hinge here and a hinge here that latch on to the subframe, and it just pivots up like that. The problem I've had is it kept going back down crooked. So every time I closed it, it was slightly crooked, and the back of the cowl was actually in some cases even pushing up against the pannier here, and causing it to rub on the side of the pannier. So that would obviously damage it over time, damage both the cowl and the pannier. So what I've done is I discovered that there was missing circlips on those hinges. So as the hinge connects to the subframe, it also goes through a little pin, and it was coming off that pin. So I've chucked on a couple of these little E-clips, easy clips, or whatever they call them, and that seems to have solved it. But there is a proper BMW part that you can get to do that job. I don't know if it works any better than those clips, but I'll probably source that and stick that on as well. So that's the only other thing that I've noticed. But apart from that, she's all right. So there you go. Quick little look at some of the priorities so far on the R100CS. I'm sure as I start taking things apart, other things will rear their ugly heads. There is an amazing community of people who love these bikes out and about online. So, you know, getting into those forums, reading the reams and reams of information on these bikes has been super helpful. However, if there are experts watching this channel and you think that there's any advice that I need to know about, please stick it in the comments down below. I'm not an expert on this stuff at all. I'm just a bloke in a garage having a go at stuff. So if there's any advice you can give me, please feel free to do so. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Until the next one, ride safe.